Wow, so 2015 made me feel like a pussy. Between Mad Max, The Revenant, which I just saw, and The Martian, I feel like I don't stand a chance in any Hollywood film. So, The Revenant. This movie starts off with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Hugh Glass, and his son out hunting, and it's this sort of eerie but very beautiful, very calm shot. And then they hear gunfire and they go back to their camp and everyone's being attacked by Indians and it's all horrifying. You see arrows going through people's heads like it's freaking I can't believe it's not butter. And it's graphic and there's a lot of blood and it sets the tone of this movie pretty well. This movie is very intense. There is a lot here that is very violent, it's very graphic, and some of it's very gross. There's a lot of times in this where Leonardo DiCaprio is just eating meat raw, and it looks just disgusting. Even when he's just having fish. You know, it's like, it's just sushi, but it just bites its fucking head off like Ozzy Osbourne. Like, there's a lot in this that's like, Jesus Christ. So, the synopsis of this film, there's an Indian attack on these fur trappers, and within like 5 to 10 minutes, there's 40-something fur trappers, and then there's 10. And then right out of the gate, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, whose character is John Fitzgerald, they start having problems. Fitzgerald, or Fitz, wants to stay on this boat that they all evacuated to and go further down the river. Well, Leonardo DiCaprio, who knows more about the area, he knows more about the tribes in the area, he says, no, they're going to think we're going to do that, because that's what a white person would do, I guess. And so Leonardo is like, no, we need to stop, and we need to get our legs moving, and we need to walk back to civilization. And right away you see that Leonardo DiCaprio was right, because two guys stay on the boat, despite the captain's orders, and they are, of course, horribly murdered. Because, you know, it's like the 1800s or 1700s. Everything was awful. So, I mean, if you think it's awful now, it was worse then. It was awfuler. Anyway, these two already start having problems, and you see who the antagonist is supposed to be very quickly in this movie. And then, okay, they're walking back. You think everything's going to go fine if you don't already know what happens. And then, suddenly Leonardo DiCaprio, he's out, he's scouting ahead, and he gets mauled by a bear. And that is where the based on a true story thing really stops. Like, everything else that happened after that is way more intense than this film, than what happened in reality. In reality, he basically healed up for a bit, and, you know, that's intense. It's definitely epic in its own right. It's real. That makes it even more epic. But he basically healed up the character of Hugh Glass. He built a raft, he went downriver, and he made it back to civilization. That is not how the movie goes. Now, this movie is essentially a survival slash revenge flick. And I think the opposite title for it is, How Many Ways Can the Universe Screw with Leonardo DiCaprio? This movie also makes me even more terrified of camping than I already was. I haven't gone camping since I was like 6, so I don't like it anyway. Hint, hint, I just said imagine how awful it was then. Why should I leave all my nice technology and indoor plumbing? Ugh. Indoor plumbing, man. It's gonna be big. Anyway, so, this movie, really, every time you think this character of Hugh Glass, every time you think Leo's gonna catch a break and things are gonna start getting better for him, things just get more violent. They get more intense. They get more graphic, and he just can't catch a break. The opposite title of this, and I hope in some language out there, maybe Chinese, the alternative title for this is, How Many Ways Can Mother Nature Fuck Leonardo DiCaprio? And literally, just anything can go wrong for this guy. But he's just such a badass, and he just keeps moving on. And he just keeps finding ways to survive and get back to society. So, before I get into some of the problems I had with this film, and whether I think Leo's gonna win an Oscar or whatever, I want to mention real quick, this film has something to look at every shot. Like, there's not a shot that I think was wasted in this. Everything is very beautiful. There's a lot of things they do that I'm kind of just like, how did they manage that? The scene with the bear is very intense. It's also very long. And a lot of the very gory graphic scenes in this have some length. Like, this movie did not shy away from the ultra-violence that was almost like Quentin Tarantino, but even worse because it's, like, actually pretty realistic. So, I don't know how they did all that, but it's always interesting. There's always something on camera that looks good or that is just going to grab you whether you want it to or not. And part of that is the graphicness, part of that is the shooting, and part of it is that they chose a very beautiful place to shoot this. I think they shot it in Canada, the US, I'm not sure which states or provinces, and parts in Argentina. I have no idea where in Argentina, but okay. And it pays off. This film is beautiful. It always has something to capture your eye. So there are a couple of things in this movie that bothered me. It's not necessarily anything to do with the directing or the acting or the script. I thought all those were handled well, but there's a couple things where I could tell that the film wanted me to feel a special way about something or someone, and I wasn't quite there. And for this, I'm going to have to talk a little bit about spoilers. If you don't want anything in this film spoiled, then when I give a thumbs up, unmute. But right now, mute in 3, 2, 1. So, the character of Tom Hardy in this is the antagonist. And a huge point of this movie is that Leonardo DiCaprio is trying to survive so he can kill him. He wants to murder this guy, and for good reasons. Tom Hardy, he kills Leonardo DiCaprio's son and leaves him to die. But, and this sounds horrible, so bear with me, I kind of saw where he was coming from. Like, he's been told by his captain, you have to sit here and, with Leonardo DiCaprio, who everyone thinks is just going to die anyway. There we go, that was subtle. And so everyone thinks he's going to die, and they just leave Tom Hardy and Leonardo DiCaprio's son and some other filler character, who cares, and they leave them all there to give him a proper burial once he's gone. And they know that Indians are still after him. And Tom Hardy's like, okay, I'm gonna kill this dude so I can go home, get paid, and actually live. And it's supposed to be this, like, huge villainous act. But I'm sitting there like, okay, there's a group of people who we don't know their numbers. We know they killed a bunch of us already. And they're going to keep trying to kill us. I want to go home. So I don't want to just sit here and babysit someone who I honestly believe is just going to die anyway. So it kind of makes sense. Euthanize the bastard. Jack Kevorkian fully approves. And the killing the son thing, that sounds worse than it was in the movie, because the son sees Tom Hardy trying to kill Leo, and he starts screaming at the top of his lungs. And it's like, dude, there's a bunch of people coming after us. Shut up, shut up, shut up. And Tom Hardy, in either a diabolical plot or in a fucking fit of fear because he's worried about his life, stabs the kid because he won't shut up, which could give away their position. I mean, I don't condone it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I wouldn't have stabbed that kid too. And then he leaves Leo for dead because he figures he's gonna die anyway. And then after that, everything horrible this guy does, he does basically because otherwise he's going to die. And so our main antagonist here, I liked him because he was kind of complex in that he had a motivation that I can very much identify, but at the same time, I was like, he's not that bad a dude. I wouldn't have done what he did, but at the same time, I'm like, I understand it. Also, the Indians are looking for this girl who was kidnapped, and they're trying to kill these trappers because they think the trappers have her, when it's actually these French dudes that they were trading with. So these Indians are assholes. And so, bam. And then at the end, the Indians come along at the end anyway, even though they have the girl back. And it's like, what are you doing here? Like, it's this little thing there, but it bothered me. Thumbs up. Unmute. So, in conclusion, I'm going to give this movie 7 out of 10. It's very beautiful, the script is good, the directing is good, but there were a few things that bothered me. One of which is that after a while, Leonardo DiCaprio seems almost superhuman at how much shit he's just surviving over and over and over again. You know, after the 50th time he should have died, I was kind of like, you should be dead. And it took the suspense out when there's this giant finale. Also, the main antagonist in this, I know maybe I'm a bit of a sociopath, but I can see where he's coming from. And especially since one of the main themes of this is revenge, you don't want the guy you're going to get vengeance on to be someone like, I could have made that decision. Maybe I'm the horrible person Leonardo DiCaprio should kill. So, to the main question. The main reason this film exists. Is it finally going to get Leo his Oscar? I give it 50-50. Like, there are definitely contenders this year, and Leo may or may not win it. I think he should, because he did so much with so little. He doesn't talk for most of this movie. His wounds prevent him from talking for most of this movie. And he does so much with just his face and other expressions. I thought he did a good job. But that might work against him because he doesn't really have any big lines for the most part, because he can't talk for the most part. So I hope he wins the Oscar. Let me know if you guys agree. I think Leonardo DiCaprio has a very distinguished career, and he should get an award. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, see you guys later.